was glad when they said, come let us go to the house of the Lord. I was glad when they say, come let us go to the church with no walls. You are my brother, you are my sister. From all over the world we are united in the house of God, in the church with no walls.
Welcome to this edition of the Church with No Walls podcast. I am your host, Ryan Dearbone, and today we are going to have a good time. We're going to have some laughs. We're going to have some conversation. We're probably going to have some more laughs because today I have the extreme pleasure of being joined by Brother Tom. Now, Brother Tom he is a lot of things. He's an evangelistic leader, which we'll talk about at his church. He's into a lot of different things, but mainly he's a family-friendly comedian. And so he's going to talk to us about his comedy, his connection to that in the church, and how those can work together. So, Brother Tom, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I love this Zoom thing because it's like I got this really nice shirt on and like shorts, and nobody knows. So don't tell anybody, okay? Because we don't want them the illusion to be, brought up.
You let the cat out of the bag, Brother Tom. You're supposed to say that for the end. That was the grand finale. So, Brother Tom, let's kind of start. We had talked previously before the podcast, and so you told me that you've done stand up before. You kind of did it, then you kind of left out, then you kind of came back in. Kind of talk a little bit about your journey in comedy.
Yeah, I am originally from, like I said, this part of Michigan. You can actually, I'm right here. So this is my hand. I'm from a place called the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which we call ourselves Upers, which is Scandinavian for northern rednecks. And I was going to Bible college, studying to be a minister, and went to this open mic at a Christian coffee house, and a friend signed me up for comedy. And I started doing that and moved to Florida and did a little bit of it, and just went to a really around the year 2000, in 1999, I went through a real dark place in my life, and really basically just had to reevaluate lost my faith. I just, I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe in the church. Just a real reexamination of everything. And out of that, I ended up moving to Mississippi. And our pastor had a sermon, and it was about the widow and the oil. And he said, "What's your oil?" And I said, "Well, I like to talk and make people laugh, And so that's how I got to where I'm at now. My family was always, my family was very dysfunctional, but they used humor to survive. Not a lot to do when it's 0 below, 6 feet of snow on the ground, and. But through the years, I've done. I started out with clowning. When clowning people were fun, now they're just freaking out. Kids freak out when they see clowns. I started at a church and just started writing skits and started doing a little bit of comedy, and studied improv in Chicago at the Players Workshop in Second City, and kind of just got back into it. The Lord just said, "Okay, now is the time to really do it." So. And I like to do things that are bizarre, things that they look at you, and in the world, it's so funny. I do a lot of secular clubs, and they look at you and go, "You're a Christian?" What? And so I like that look.
And so now you would say, and so and make sure I get this right. Your comedy is funny enough for a bar, but clean enough for a church. Did I get that correct?
Absolutely. Because, see, you tell people in the church, "I'm a Christian." Oh, the first thing they think of is dirty. Because most of your Christians, I won't say that most of your comedians, but I say a lot of your comedians, they're far from clean. I do an open mic, and I tell people at church, go, "Oh, I'm going to come hear you." And I'm like, I'm clean, but the other ones aren't. I said, I was in the Army unsaved, and some of the stuff they talk about, I didn't even think about. And and that's part of the when you talk about the evangelism outreach, going places where they don't expect you. I'm not saying that there's a certain grace that I have now that I didn't have before, and it's just a lot of that. And then if you go into a bar, well, they think, oh, you're family friendly or you're clean, you're not funny, and so that's where that came from.
And so let's talk about that because you have, standards and a Christian faith and a uh, something to uphold. So you're not going out there. You say you like to shock people, but you're not going for the dirty shock value jokes. How do you ride that line of something that is funny and can hit that line, but doesn't go over into something that could be considered crass or something that would make your pastor or other church members look at you funny and say that's not the Tom that we know.
I have I'm in the midst of forming my own entertainment company. I'm in the midst of figuring out the business part of how to steward that part. And one of the things that it's called my company's called the 650X Entertainment Company. I used to go in our church. Our church Wednesday service starts at 7, and I used to go in at 10 minutes before and work on my routines. And my standard was, can I do that here? And that was kind of like my jumping ground to making sure that whatever I take out there. For instance, one of the things I do is the church I go to, I'm the only white guy there, you know. And so one of my jokes is like I say, I'm the only white guy there. It's kind of like, where's Waldo's for dummies? Where's Brother Tom? Can we find Brother Tom today? That's what I mean, because you're not expecting that. And just the normality of church. Church is funny. Church people are funny. Pastors are funny. We talked about that the other day. I said the biggest difference, if you go to a white church and they say we're about to close, that's 10 minutes max. You go to a black church, it could be 2 hours to 2 days. I mean, I look, when I go to church, I wear Depends and take snacks. Okay, that's all.
And that's great. And people who go to church will get those jokes, and even people who maybe have aren't consistently going to church, that's still something that can reach them because they've probably been in church at some point. They know somebody who goes to church, so it's able to connect. So for you, when you're done with your set, you've been at a comedy club or somewhere where you've done your set. What's your hope? What's the end game when somebody walks away from hearing your set and from seeing you perform?
One of the things I like to do before, and like I said, I'm just starting to really get into the bigger picture now. But when I do an open mic on Thursday nights, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Southern Prohibition, but I'm not going to plug that. Um, but one of the things I do is I go around and talk to people. Hey, man, thanks for coming. How you doing? Meeting people, greeting people, and then when I get done, is they want to talk to you. And what's amazing to me, if you live in the South, everybody's a Christian. Everybody's at least been to church a bazillion times. They went to VBS. They probably went to camp. And for some reason, there's a disconnect between the reality of Christ and what they're living. And it's amazing to me the number of people that when you sit down and you just talk to them. And when I look at somebody, I look at them and go, in my mind, I'm thinking, you have a purpose. And my goal is to get them to realize that God has a purpose for them. And that's the unique thing. I pray for people. They'll tease me, how's the church circuit? Um, I have one guy I talk to, and he's like really rough, drugs, really, in his own words, a trailer trash upbringing, very hard, very poor. And he has a little girl. And I told him one night, I said, God loves you like you love your daughter. And you're not going to get those chances unless you build that those benefits. So when I get off stage, and a lot of times at church, even at churches, people don't realize their purpose. We have this idea that ministry, everyone, I believe everyone has a calling. And God went, let's give Tom this calling because he's just screwed up enough. He'll do it. But you have a calling. I was looking. You've been in the TV business for years. And that experience has brought you to where you're at. And if we can get out there, and I call it laughing evangelism, it disarms people to look at you and go, look, we're just as screwed up as you. The only thing difference is we have God.
Wow. And something that I think they've always said that comedy is the best medicine. And sometimes it feels like, especially because we're in a war with Satan and with sin and whatever, we spend more time crying and angry and hurt than we do laughing. So what you provide is medicine for us in a lot of ways. And it's clean and constructive medicine versus medicine that you watch Kevin Hart roast or this, that, and the other, which no shade against any of those, but you're gonna hear a lot of cussing, you're gonna hear a lot of sexual innuendos, a lot of things that don't necessarily uplift anybody, but rather tear them down. But the medicine that you're providing is something that can benefit anybody.
I get, and we talk about you talk about your upbringing. Usually, like my family is dysfunctional. I mean, they make Dr. Phil see a therapist. That kind of dysfunctional. I stole, I stole that off the internet, so I don't want to get credit. But my grandmother would tell stories, and they were horrific stories. I mean, they were horrible. They were about abuse and sexual abuse and getting stabbed. And we'd be laughing at the end because of the way she would tell them. Great storytellers. When I was in the military, you see the military guys doing crazy things and funny things, and you're like, my God, that's our military? Yeah, because that's how we survive. There's a organization called the American Association for Therapeutic Humor. And one time I was actually one of my things I do, and I haven't discussed this with you, but I'm a humorologist. And the way I got into that is there was a lady, she was working with a mental health agency, and she wanted to teach people how to use humor in stress. And she approached me and asked me if I wanted to do it. And I said, I don't know anything about it. She said, I'll pay you. And I said, okay, I'll be there. And but it's just amazing that part of it, the humor. I mean, what are some of the most popular shows? Are the comedies, the situation comedies. Most of your shows are nowadays are either extremely funny or they're extremely depressing. You know, and yeah, so that's a lot of what I do, and a lot of it's with self healing. I laugh at myself. I tell I've always struggled with my weight. As a matter of fact, when I was a kid, um, when I was born, the doctors thought I was twins. So, and I've been going through a lot of repressive separation therapy for that. But well, it really is. It's terrible because the worst part about it is now I don't get two Christmas presents. I only get one. That was the worst thing.
And so you talked about self-healing. How do you think has comedy, maybe not saved you, but has it given you that confidence back, that outlet, that ability to see your purpose and see your worth, not only as a child of God, but as somebody who has to look in the mirror every day and see yourself?
5 years ago, I was at a point where I basically, I basically would, on my days off, I would sit in my garage and stare out in space and go, God, please take me home. I wasn't going to commit suicide, but I had so much regret and so much pain and so much things that had progressed over the years that I was done. I didn't wanted to go home. I had no purpose in life, no meaning. And I began to go into something called Celebrate Recovery. It's a 12-step faith-based program to deal with some of my issues. And uh, just, bringing humor into it. And it was very self-healing because I've always, my cousin hates to go out with me. He's a very introvert, and I'll talk to everybody, I get tired of listening to my own voices. And with the medication, I'm down to three voices in my head. So I'm always looking. See, that's the look I'm talking about. Like you're talking earlier. It's that look, and you're going, "Oh my God, I hope he's not serious." But and I began to realize we had our pastor had a sermon about the oil, and it was a story. I forget I always get him confused. I don't know if it's Elijah or Elijah, but he goes to this lady's house, and she said, "I've got enough oil to make some bread, and then me and my son are going to die." Not a real positive story, you know. He says, "Trust God with that oil," and the idea in the sermon was, "What's your oil? What do you have?" And I go, I make people funny, laugh, and I love to talk to people. And I guess that came from I was doing a comedy stand-up improv show, and it was back home. It was the first time that my relatives had ever seen me perform, and my aunt came. And a year before, her husband had died. They'd been together like 30 something years, and everybody loved it, and they were laughing and all that. And my cousin came up to me and he goes, "That's the first time my mom has laughed since my dad died." And that's when it hit me, the impact that comedy can have as a tool. So,
And I think it speaks to our to our faith and to God that we can do so many different things and they can all lead back to him, because most people wouldn't necessarily think of comedy as a way to bring somebody to God or to show a reflection of him, but you're able to.
well, one of the things that I want to do is go into a church and on a Saturday night do a comedy show. Maybe not even a church, but a venue, and people will come and hear comedy. They can look you up on the YouTube and some of these other things, and they can see it. And they go, "Oh, that's funny." Well, as a Christian, you invite people to church. Mostly they're going to say, "No, that's okay. I'll pass." Or you got to trick them into going because somebody gets baptized, or like most Christians, they're faithful every Christmas and Easter. So they might go there. And what my hope is that they'll come in and they'll laugh and they'll see that we go through the same things in life. But the difference is that when they go through things in life, we're up here because we have Christ and we have that hope that we won't stay here. We might literally go through hell before we get here. But when I was here, you keep going down. We all go through the same thing. It's just what direction are you going? And that's my biggest hope.
And so, and so you also talked about you're an evangelistic leader at your church. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was interesting. So I'm going to this church. I joined, and I got a lot of friends going, "What you going there for?" Those friends,
Yeah.
Southern friends. I just tell them I'm there for the women. That shuts them up right there. And I had joined the church, and I was part of it, and I was doing this thing called the Gathering, and it was just an outreach. We had music and salvation message and jumpy houses and jambalaya and I invited the pastor and all that to come, and I said, I'm doing this. I would love for you guys to show up. I just started going there, and they showed up, and they said, Brother Tom. They call me brother Tom, and it got really weird because I would just tell everybody, hey, I'm just a lovable. I say I'm the lovable dysfunctional uncle. At the church I was going to, Uncle Tom didn't really go off so well. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I was very uncomfortable. I was like, just call me Brother Tom, okay? It was a very uncomfortable feeling for me. I said, just call me Brother Tom. Well, I saw they came and I was doing things and I remember there was a time I went, Lord, I want to be used. I want to be used. And I'm thinking big arenas and all that. And he goes, okay, go ahead. And I was like, what? He goes, you go out to places every day. You talk to people. Let me set you up for those divine appointments. And so I started going to places. I was in Wall. So me and my pastor, he invites me out for breakfast. And I said to this lady, I just looked at her and I said, you've been going through a hard time, and I think it's financial. It, can we pray for you? And she goes, and so she starts sobbing right there in Cracker Barrel. And she was going through, she had lost her car. She had a single mom. Our pastor ended up helping her get her car back on the road. And I'm thinking, we just went to eat. I was looking for biscuits and gravy, and God just intervened. And that's something we all do. We all have those moments where we're just we talk about pastors and preachers and teachers and all that. We think of the church. I have an opinion that we all have a calling and we all have a gift. You might be a pastor. What you do, Ryan, is you're an evangelist. This is evangelistic work here. This is motivating people to get out in their communities and go beyond the walls. And if you look at the Gospels, that's all they did. I mean, Philip is walking down the road and he's just bebopping down the road, and this guy comes back in his, Mercedes Benz of he's an Ethiopian, and he's a high-ranking Ethiopian. And he goes, "Hey, do you know what you're reading?" Well, what happened? He goes, "No, I don't. Hop in." He leads this guy to the Lord, and Ethiopia becomes the first Christian nation. And he was just walking down the road. And I think that for me, that's what really God's been saying to me lately is, you want the arena, you want the spotlight, but the spotlight in the spiritual realm, in my kingdom, is next door to your neighbor. It's the young guy that comes over and, hey, how do you light a grill? Hey, let me show you.
Mm. I like that. That's powerful. Like I like the fact you said, what you saw, you wanted the arenas like that, but you see God placed you in this space where you're doing more than what you probably would have done in an arena because you're having those intimate connections and conversations.
Yeah.
And so now you said you have a character that you do. Tell us a little about your character.
Oh, okay. Well, I really have two. The brother Tom, and I learned this from Alice Cooper of all things.
You mean school's out for summer, Alice Cooper?
Yeah. He said, the great theologian Alice Cooper. Anyway, he said his real name is a different name. And he said, I developed Alice Cooper because I wanted to separate my stage from my reality. So Brother Tom is my stage persona. The other one is a character I have called Dr. Seymour Giggles. And I wear a lab coat, and I have a stethoscope, a real one. And I go out in communities and events, and I hand out books. And the hope is that with these books, literacy will go up. Reading is fundamental for kids. Um, uh, Working with kids for years, I was the ambassador of fun at Great Wolf Lodge. Yeah, that was a great title. I impress the women with that all the time. Hey, you know what? Hey, I'm the ambassador of fun. Hey, um, sorry, but this character goes out and I hand out books. And when I'm going out July 2nd for this big 4th of July thing, I'm bringing people from my church to help me to hand out the books and to see what kind of opportunities there is. You know, you, one of the things when I was in the army is they had a church thing and they fed you. We showed up. I didn't want to hear nothing about the gospel, but I wanted food. And we have food that we can give people. But the problem is that the church has been feeding people food that not, how do I say that? The church has been feeding people food that they're used to, you know, and we have to repackage it, the same food, but in a way that they can eat it. So
That makes sense. So now when when you're thinking through, okay, obviously you've got Brother Tom, you've got Seymour Giggles. To you, how are they similar and how are they different? Obviously, one is kind of more with youth literacy, the other one's more comedic, but are there similarities between the two, or do you try to keep them distinctive because of who they are or meant to be?
I think the commonality between the two characters is if you really look at your original comedians, they were your court jesters. They were, they do funny outfits. 20s, 30s, even 1900s. What were the comedians? They were the clowns at the circus. They were the funny guys. So there's an element of comedy in both of those. If you look throughout history, you look at comedians, they vaudeville and things like that. And so both characters, although they're different, it's kind of like one of my favorite characters was Chris Farley,
Mm.
and I think of the different characters he did, and it's almost like I had an instructor say it's like a glove. You put this glove on, and your hand is still your hand, but the glove makes it look different. And so each character is different, but they're the purpose is the same to make people realize your divine purpose and your divine greatness. God has created us specifically for greatness and purpose. Now we get greatness as being elevated in something. And in my opinion, in biblical greatness is finding out your identity in Christ and fulfilling that purpose. And if you can do that, if that's driving up down the road and if somebody broke down, helping them with their car, that's your greatness, you know.
And so, kind of going back to something you talked about earlier, because you talked about growing up in a dysfunctional family and kind of finding your way to back to Christ. When you're having a bad day, maybe having a couple bad days, a stretch, or you're not on, you're not feeling your best. How do you still go out and tell jokes? How do you still go out and make other people laugh when maybe you're in a situation of pain yourself? How do you make that happen?
That's a great question. I really, if you look at most comedians are very messed up people. You look at like I was thinking of Howie Mandel. Howie Mandel is brilliant. Robin Williams, brilliant comedian. Chris Farley was a brilliant, but in his personal life, these guys are dysfunctional. They don't know how to act. They don't know how to not be on. And I think for me is I come I put it in compartments, and for me, going out and being among people and laughing and just maybe just having a conversation is is the fact that I feed off that energy. The worst thing, the hardest thing about a comedian is that you go out night after night after night after night, and you have to make these jokes that you've told. 1,000 times funny. And how do you do that? You just get back into that groove. And for me, I find out that it's like when I wasn't saved, and I would go through my week, and it was a hard week, and I would go out and get drunk, smoke dope, things like that. I did that to take me out of the reality of my life. And so with Christians, it's we have fellowship, which means a buffet or potluck. Okay, and
Definitely potlucks.
yeah. Oh man, I've eaten some things. I've oxtail raccoon, and it's all good. But that's how I really do. I look at it as a survival. It's like taking medicine.
And so you're also providing medicine to other people who might be sitting in the audience who may need some and don't realize it, or may need some, and you may not realize it, but the jokes you tell might just lighten somebody's day up just a little bit.
Yeah, you know what's so funny? It's amazing, because sometimes you do an audience and it's like looking at your grandma's knitting circle. It's like, go ahead, make me laugh. It's like, lady, go ahead and make me pretty. Okay, it's the same thing. We got to work together here. You know, but it's amazing to me is that people come up and they talk about the joke. I do a thing where I do senior dating. I go out in the audience and I look at a young woman. I go, "So, how you doing?" And everybody, thinks you're going a certain way. And I go, "Is your grandma single?" And so it's all about senior dating. And I have this line. I talk about depends, and I talk about I do a lot better with senior dating because who knew that having your own teeth was sexy? And I did this crowd one time, and there was a lot of mature women there. Very careful not to say old.
Yes.
And there's a lot of grandkids and grandparents, and they laughed because that's the grandma, that's you. And one of the people I talked to this young girl, and one of the ladies come up and said her grandma died about 3 months ago, and she spent a lot of time with her, and it helped her remember the good things. And when you hear something like that, you're just like, this is why I really do what I do. And plus, you get a free meal. So fellowship. I'm sorry, we have fellowship after. So
There you go. Yeah, I was gonna say there's got to be some food involved somewhere. So, Brother Tom, as we start to wrap up, uh, for somebody who is curious about going to a whether you call it family friendly, Christian, however you want to frame it, comedy show, what would you tell them? And then on the flip side, so we'll do a two-parter. Somebody who's looking to get into, they feel like that might be their calling from God to get into family friendly or Christian comedy. How should they go about getting into it? So you got a two-parter.
okay. So the magic when I first started out in comedy, a gentleman gave me this. Comedy is very simple. A plus B does not equal C.
Hmm.
So, instance, I say it was so cold last winter that's A plus B. I thought my ex-wife was in town. That's
That's definitely not C.
that's definitely still. I mean this lady gave frostbite to Elsa the Frozen from Frozen. I'm just saying. Uh, and there's a great channel. It's called Let's Talk Company on YouTube. It talks about the mechanics of everything. Comedy is like a musician. It's a gift. My calling is not comedy. It's a gift, a
Mm.
tool I use in my calling. We think that preachers, the pastors, the preaching is their calling. No, that's a gift. Your calling is to reach people outside the church.
Mm.
calling is evangelism, to move the church in a different direction. And so it's a wonderful thing. I wish there were more open mics. Go to an open mic. Go prayed up. Go prepared. Some people can't handle open mics. You got to be prepared. If you can take somebody with you, a prayer partner, take them. But when you go out into anything, whether it's athletics or you were in the TV industry, you know what that's like.
Yep.
But but that's what we're called to do. We're called to be the light. I have friends that play guitars and all that, and they worship, but they also go out and they do. Uh, I'm going to be in Beaumont, Mississippi, the 27th. We're going to do a festival. The greatest thing is finding your purpose and finding the gift for that. I I live in Michigan, so I'm going to take a trip to Michigan. All right, my calling is to go to Michigan to see my relatives. My gift is that automobile that takes me there,
Mm.
and that's really what it is. Acting, the arts. The '80s were big into the arts. What is your art? I know people that clog, which is kind of like redneck tap dancing. Yeah, and the greatest thing is that we're uniquely built for a purpose. We're uniquely gifted for that purpose. And whatever that is, don't compare it to somebody else in the church. You're not. And if you can do that, then what do? You start off with a simple premises. Hey, my ex was cold. She was cold hearted. Really? How cold was she? The old line. I don't know. How cold is it outside? I thought my ex was back in town. You know, yeah, you start with a simple premises, a simple thought. I was thinking about, you see all these YouTubes where all these people from like Britain and Scotland and overseas, they're coming. And what are they incredible? What do they think is incredible about America? Waffle House and Walmart and Bucky.
Yeah.
So they love rednecks, you know,
Yeah.
and it's taking it to the extreme where say you have a simple idea. I have a simple idea of do if you're born in a test tube, do you get homesick around glass cleaner? You know, and then you start to really think about it. Well, what if you're a kid and you have to go to a recycling plant and watch? It could be your uncle getting crushed up, and you just keep going on, and you write down as much stuff as that. If somebody really wants to get involved with comedy, or just try it, or use it to maybe enhance a sermon or conversation, there's a great channel. It's called Let's Talk Comedy, and I really approve it. And I say go for it. You know, we always think that we have to be, the most hilarious person. When you first start in comedy, you're going to get one or two bits that fly. Most of them aren't. And you're going to go to an open mic and you're going to learn how to stand and talk to people and be with people. We have this thing, we call it the Jesus geezers. And it's a friend, yeah, it's a friend of mine. It's a 50 above club. And the whole concept is like, people get 50 and they quit. They think I'm done. And I'm like, no, I'm just getting started. A lot of us are retiring. I'm semi-retired, and now I'm doing the things that I really love to do. And it's like, be open. God is going to take you places you never thought or imagined or dreamed. And they were literally, and I say this, they were literally, wherever he's going to take you, he's going to scare the living hell out of you.
Mm.
And that's where I'm at.
Wow. And then what about somebody who's maybe never seen a show? What would you say to them? What would be your pitch to come see a family friendly or Christian or again, however you want to call it, show?
Yeah, here's the thing. Here's the two things. Come and have fun. Life is hard. Church life is hard. Being a Christian is hard. Uh, in the world, you just do whatever you want to do. You don't care. As a Christian, now I have to love people I don't like. I have to love people I disagree with. I have to get along with people that I don't want to get along with. And and come and have some fun. Bring your friend. One of the things I do if I do a church, um, uh, I all I want is a love offering. I need to maybe get there in a hotel, but after that I don't. A lot of people will say, well, I need this much money and stuff like that. I'm at the point now where I want a love offering. Invite all your rich friends because I want a good love offering. That's practicality.
Right.
But the object is that those that maybe have a little bit more money will uh, contribute so that I can go and do what I do. And those that have no money, because that's probably most of my life, no money can come and not feel anything. It's what it's all about. Find look on YouTube. Check out that. Check them out on YouTube. Most There's a lot of comedians that are family friendly. Jerry Seinfeld was a clean comedian. There's a huge, as far as comedians go, there's a huge market for it. Clean comedians are very much in demand. So, and come to have fun. Bring a friend. Bring that one friend. Bring your grandma. Especially if you're single. Um, Bring that friend that wouldn't go to a church. Bring that atheist friend. Bring whoever. You know. But check them out. There's a lot of organizations out there. Clean Common, the Dry Bar. The Dry Bar is a clean comedian. There's a lot of Christians. And I just want to shout out to Kayla right now. You're dropping the ball on comedians. I did not see who won the fan award for comedian. That's all I'm saying to Kayla. I'm challenging him. So
All right. The gauntlet's been thrown down. So now, Brother Tom, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, either to book you, to come see you, want to know some more about your comedy, how can they find you?
I am on. I'm starting to develop. I'm working on a website. I do have. It's called X-Ray Consulting. That is my email. They can call me there. They can call me. I have a phone number, 601-325-7973. They can call me if they want to talk to my pastor because they want to know if I'm straight up. They can talk to my pastor. I'm on Finally Free. I'm on Facebook. Just look up Tom Creel. You'll see me. I have a nice suit that I rented. Because you go to a black church, you got to have a suit. And I'm just
You gotta have a very nice suit.
yeah. And you go to a white church, not so much. But if you do have to go, you don't have to have a nice suit. You just have to have I call them a Sears and Roebuck suit for white church. But you can have nice suits. So. And I'm the guy. I have a picture of me. I'm in a suit, and they can go on my Facebook, message me, and yeah, hopefully by the time we do the podcast, I'm working on a website. Like I said, I have been doing it, and now I'm at the process of where I'm like, okay, it's time to go out now.
Hmm,
So,
I like it. So give us a joke or two for the road before we wrap it up.
okay. Um, like I said before, I'm a senior. I do like my favorite pickup line is, "So how you doing? Is your grandma single?" I did. The only thing I could say about that is don't try that in a trailer park because most of those grandmas are between 30 and 35, and that's just kind of creepy. It's like they're all looking for sugar daddies, and I'm more like a sweet and low daddy, with packages. Yeah. Although with my EBT card and my senior discounts, I'm not a bad catch. So um, the greatest place to pick up women is a funeral. It's really great. You got free food. Everybody's dressed up. And by chance, your ex is the one in the coffin, you get a lot of sympathy numbers. Last one I got 4 numbers and 3 casseroles. But thing about now I'll end with this. The thing about older women, they like flowers. So I always check the obituaries to see what graveyard has the freshest flowers. The thing to be careful about though is to make sure you get the sympathy card taken out because that can be really embarrassing.
I like that was
That's the look I'm looking for. Where you go, oh my God, I hope he's not for real or serious.
I like that. That's good, brother Tom. I appreciate that. That's I think I'm gonna be smiling and laughing most of the rest of the day. That was a great. So, again, if you have not checked out Brother Tom, please check him out on his socials. Check him out on his website that he is developing. Book him, book him unless you're a cop. I would imagine that's probably the only time you don't want to be booked is if a cop is the one doing it. I assume, right?
Cops don't really like they don't like you tell them jokes. This one cop stopped me. He goes, you know how fast you're going? I goes, yes sir, I was doing 110. He goes, why were you going so fast? He said, well my ex ran off with a cop and I thought you were bringing her back.
I like that. Good.
I
That's
stole
good.
that. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you borrowed it. You borrowed it.
I borrowed it.
Borrowed it. All right. With that, Brother Tom, thank you for your time on the podcast. I appreciate you and I wish you all great success. And we'll bring you back on at some point to talk a little bit more about comedy and about what you're doing. Keep up with you. So, with that, I am your host, Ryan Dearbone. This has been The Church with No Walls. As always, take care and be blessed.
Come let us go to the church with no walls. You are my brother, you are my sister. From all over the world we are united in the house of God, in the church with no walls. La 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 la, without walls.